Secondly, it has issued and formally delivered on national level letters of sincere apologies to the Korean victims several times in the past. Mentioning for the first time, several Japanese government officials formally pronounced national level declaration of sincere apology in 1990. The second time, Prime Minister Miyazawa Kiichi orally delivered a national level apology during his visit to South Korea in 1992. The third time, then Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Gonodaro pronounced a national level sincere apology in a formal governmental open media conference held in Japan in August 1993. The fourth time, then Japanese Acting Prime Minister Murayama Tomiichi included a national level sincere apology to Korean victims in his internationally broadcasted Japanese state address on August 31st of 1994. And the fifth time, but not the last time, Prime Minister of Japan Hashimoto Yutaro issued and sent a national level letter of sincere apology to the South Korean government in 1996. Japanese government further intensified its reason for rejecting South Korean President Moon Jae-in's demands by claiming that it already has paid reasonable and appropriate monetary compensations out to the South Korean victims of Japanese atrocities several times. The first time, mentioning the first time, it paid a group of 284 Korean victims a compensation of 565 million Japanese yens, which was equivalent to 8 billion and 292 million and 500,000 Korean won, which was divided up into 284 separate payments of 2 million yens or 29 million Korean wons of monetary compensations to each individual South Korean victims or their remaining families. The second time, it paid to each of 7 additional South Korean victims a monetary compensation of 5 million yens, which was equivalent to 72.5 million Korean wons. Japanese government also further reinforced its reason for rejecting South Korean President Moon Jae-in's demands by mentioning that all of these sensitive issues surrounding the Japanese government's responsibility to pay appropriate monetary compensation to South Korean victims was thoroughly dealt with, and an agreement between the two governments regarding these sensitive issues was achieved in the Peace Treaty of San Francisco, which was held on September 8th of 1951, with 49 nations, including Japan and 48 U.S. allied powers. The evil and crafty President of South Korea Moon Jae-in's resurrection of the 70-year-old problems surrounding Japanese soldiers' atrocities committed against or upon Korean victims resulted in a rapidly deteriorating relationship and military alliance between these two nations. And the rapid deterioration of continuous and the rapid deterioration of between these two countries' relationships continues on its rapid downward spirally path, even today, as I stand before all of you and speak. Moreover, to further intensify his anti-U.S. effort to dismantle Japan-Korea-South Korea coalition, U.S.-Japan-South Korea Trilateral coalition and military alliance, and thereby, in turn, to dismantle the U.S.-Japan-South Korea Trilateral coalition. Okay, let me repeat that again. To further intensify his anti-U.S. efforts to dismantle Japan and South Korea coalition and military alliance, and thereby in turn to dismantle the U.S.-Japan South Korea Trilateral coalition and military alliance, and eventually to dismantle the U.S. South Korea coalition and military alliance. The evil and crafty President Moon Jae-in of South Korea deployed one of South Korea's Navy's destroyer. It's a warship to destroy the enemy's warships or aircraft carriers over to the narrow sea between South Korea and Japan, when a North Korean fisherman's boat secretly drifted into the sea, appeared just floating aimlessly with a powerless dead engine. Detecting the small North Korean fisherman's boat and the South Korean warship on its radar screen, approaching the small North Korean fisherman's boat at a high speed, Japanese Navy deployed one of its fighter jets to the spot near the warship and the North Korean fishing boat in the sea as a defensive posture to make sure the warship and the fishing boat were not intentional military aggression against Japan. But as the Japanese fighter jet, with the surveillance purpose only, closed in toward the Korean destroyer warship and the floating North Korean fishing boat, just as it began to hold constant altitude and distance away from the Korean warship and the fishing boat, North Korean fishing boat, and started its circular surveillance flight. The South Korean warship fired a laser beam to lock on the Japanese surveillance fighter jet.